I'm going to be making a step-by-step tutorial on how we go from this to chicken treats. We just got done processing our 5 hogs and we got all of our meat and our fat back. We have an excess amount of fat, so I've been working on turning what I can into lard, but there's just so much to go through, so I was trying to come up with some different ideas of how to use it because I don't want anything to go to waste. Okay, to start with, you're going to need something to warm the fat up in. I'm going to be using a roaster oven. I've heard a couple of different things about knives. I heard some people like serrated and some people like a flat edge knife. I'm gonna try both and we're going to see which one works better. That was the flat, I like that. That's the one I've been using. Oh, the serrated is so much better. I hands down like using a serrated knife 1,000 times better than a flat edge knife. I was giving myself blisters trying to cut through this, and honestly the serrated just grabs on and it feels a lot safer. Get really oily, and so everything's so slippery. It was actually quite dangerous, so I'm really excited that this worked as well as it did. We ended up with 22 bags of fat from those 5 hogs, so it was quite the daunting chore, having never really processed fat and made lard before. Because I was so daunted by it and so overwhelmed, I thought that since I got the hang of it and it really isn't that difficult, that I would share what I'm doing and how I'm doing it with everybody else, so that maybe we can help other people along the way. We're going to be cutting the fat into about inch-sized cubes. The smaller you go, the more you're going to be able to render down. But because I have such an excess, and I also have animals to eat the stuff that doesn't melt down all the way, I'm going to be just going about an inch. So essentially what you're doing is you're rendering it down, and some of the fat pieces will start to have the appearance of like crispy bacon fat. They're called cracklings. The cracklings are what add flavor to your lard. So the higher temperature that you cook it at, the more flavor you're going to get. As far as chicken treats, they're not gonna care. They're either way. But personally, when I'm trying to render lard for my family, I like to do it at a lower temperature just so that I get a pure product. Rendering down and melting the lard is a long process. This is something that you start earlier in the day and then check on it frequently throughout the day, approximately about a half an hour between stirrings. To do it at the lower temperature, there is a little bit more wiggle room, so if you get distracted, can't come check on it as frequently as you hope to, the lower temperature gives you a little bit more wiggle room before you lose your product. I don't know if you can hear it, but my chickens are waiting at the door with anticipation. I have been giving them scraps of this just as I'm trying to dig it out of the pans, or the leftover cracklings. They have been living their best chicken life. There are going to be bits of meat and tissue left on your fat and throughout your fat. So the colder you can keep it, the better. This is something you want to treat as if it's meat. The more pieces of meat that you leave in, the stronger the flavor is going to be. I'm going to be cutting them out and just give them to the chickens as a treat right now because they're out there begging. But you can take them out or you can leave them in, and then they will just become part of the cracklings. This would be a really great opportunity to make some like suet for some wild birds. I just want to make sure that it isn't going to waste. Finished off that first bag that we were working on, and we're now about to just let this kind of start rendering down a little bit. I'm going to finish putting this last piece in and then do a quick stir to get kind of everything coated in that oil that's already started to melt down, and that'll help speed up the process. And probably turn it down to that 225-degree temperature and let it start working its magic. So we're gonna do a quick stir. This is what it looks like in the pan. You can see down in the bottom, some of these pieces are starting to get opaque and just a darker color and lose some of that pink. That's what you're looking for. So like that piece right there is pretty optimum for that. That's starting to melt down. We're gonna let this do its thing, and I will be back to show you the next step. Okay, so I just came back to check on our fat. So it all has a nice shiny gleam to it. Some of the pieces did get a little bit overdone, but again, you're not gonna care. See some of it started to melt down in the bottom there, and as that gets more and more, we'll start ladling it out into the container to make our treats. We're gonna pour in our bird seed, and then we're gonna take our lard and drizzle it over the bird seed and make sure everything is touching. That way it keeps it from going bad longer. The bird seed's already dry, but just the oil coating everything will make it last all that much longer. So we pour our bird seed in to about halfway. Okay, and once we have our bird seed in, we're gonna kind of flatten it out a little. And then we'll take our ladle and pour the oil through the sifter to make sure that we catch all of those cracklings or any other impurities. Keep it as fresh as possible. So we're gonna ladle our now oil into the bird seed, so be careful because it is extremely hot. And we just want to make sure that everything is touching and that it all gets incorporated really well. So after we pour our oil in, we're going to give it a quick stir, pour on some more bird seed on top, and doing this in steps to make sure that everything is coated evenly. I kind of just move this around as I'm doing it to make sure that I'm catching all of the corners and edges as much as I can before the quick stir, just save myself some time. Okay, so I'm starting to see the oil kind of stand on top of the bird seed, so we're going to give it a quick stir. See if we need to add any extra, if any of it's looking particularly dry. Some of this is looking a little dry, so we'll add in a little bit more. And don't worry about any of the cracklings that you accidentally ladle up. The sifter catches them and then you're able to just dump them right back in and keep them rendering down. Once I'm done, I collect all my cracklings into a bucket and then I can use those as a little special treat for the chicken stew. But this will last longer and I'll be able to give it to them throughout the winter. Okay, so that all looks coated really nicely. I'll show you. Everything is shiny and coated, mixed in. So we're gonna flatten it out, and then pour some more birdseed on. We're just gonna ladle on some more of our oil here. You can see parts of the pieces are darker brown than the others. those are probably the pieces that are sitting closer to the edges or the bottom, and then the whiter looking pieces are not rendered down completely. We're starting to get some more of that standing oil, so I'm going to keep pouring on just a couple more ladles full. And then we'll give it a quick stir. Okay, so we want to let this sit overnight, let all of that oil cool down so that it's safe for handling, and we'll check back in the morning. I have my hardened lard that I had put into some birdseed. Easiest way I found to do this is to take some cling wrap. I'm going to work a piece of this out. So it's kind of going to be like the first piece of a lasagna where it's just not pretty. Okay, so we're going to wrap up our chicken treats and separate them. We're going to pull out our plastic wrap and stretch it out. Then we're going to work our chicken treats out of the container they're in. You separate them. Kind of just nudge them along. Like I said, if you try and do this with a metal spatula or anything metal, you're going to bend it. That one came out all wonky. Good thing we can kind of rework it. So you're going to want to rework this into the shape of your choosing. I choose to shape mine very similar to like a suet block that you would put for feeding wild birds. That way, in case I wanted to give it as presents to people, they would be able to use it. I have lots of family members that like to feed the wild birds. So after you get it shaped to your liking, pull the plastic over, fold it in on itself again. Then you fold the sides on and pull it out just a little bit more. Wrap it around itself to keep the air out. And then just make your cut. And then you have your chicken treats. An assistant, my son Lucas, is going to help us. He's going to be our scooper, and I'm going to be the wrapper. Oh, you want me to take a turn? Figure if you push it down in like a shovel, and then you scoop it, that works a lot better. So use it like a shovel. There you go. Thank you. Okay, that's probably about it for that cake. So we're going to...
Cake?
The chicken think it's a cake.
It's all on cake.
So we flip the ends over again, and then just one more turn when we're wrapping it in plastic. And then we're... Oh, wait till I have more plastic out, please. Let's see if we can't get these chickens over here, and we'll test out our chicken treats. See what they think. I think it's a hit. Oh, here comes some more.